So you're going to tell me that you have never taken a 24-hour vacation somewhere?
I mean, I've done some, hot shot pickup and delivery stuff with you. That's about it.
So you really didn't think that I was in Florida yesterday?
No, I thought those were old pictures from the last time you were down there, honestly. Oops.
You should know me better than that by now. Like, you figure...
Well, that's why I figured these were old pictures and you're screwing with me.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, okay, fair enough. I would screw with you, but no, I really did take a 24-hour vacation. Flew down yesterday morning to Tampa, and the whole thing, it was just the cards fell together the way they needed to be. My daughter wanted to go down and see my mom, who has a house down in Florida, wanted to go down there, and it would have been $100 to send her unescorted. And of course, with her anxiety and things like that, it was much better for me to go with her.
Yeah.
So her and I hopped on a plane. It was only $60 for me to go along with her. And, we watched Captain America Winter Soldier on the way down, which the timing was perfect on that. The
Nice.
movie finished just as we landed.
That's awesome.
So, being jammed in those Spirit seats where they, after they get you in and then they throw in the goats and the sheep and the chickens up into the overhead compartments, and, you're definitely flying for fifth class or whatever on that.
Nice.
So, but yeah, so we went down, went to the beach, stuff like that. And actually, I want to talk a little bit about the rental car for a second. So I don't know if you saw anything about that.
No, I didn't, but let's check our intro out and then we'll come back to that.
It's time to hit the trail, lock in those hubs, and throw it into low range. Because you are listening to Wheelin' with Keith and Johnny Orange. They're here to talk about 4x4s, trucks, and everything to do with enjoying the great outdoors. Buckle up. Here's your hosts, Keith and Johnny Orange.
So, Mom typically, when I go down to Florida, she'll drive up the hour and 20 minutes from Sarasota, pick me up in Tampa, and and drop me back off when I leave. But this time, knowing that I was only going to be there for actually less than a 24-hour period, I didn't want to make, my, elderly, I guess is the wrong word to use. I don't think of her as
Calling your
that way.
mom old?
Yeah, I know.
Come on, that's wrong.
I didn't want to use that. So I told her, I said, I'm just going to rent a car for the day. And I said, it's going to be cheap enough. Well, so I go online, and apparently in the middle of our pandemic, car rentals are non-existent at a lot of airports. They've sold off. There was a newspaper article about it. I guess they sold off a lot of their fleets.
Wow.
So it might be a good time to buy a used rental car if you really want to do that, because I'm not sure I'd want to buy a used rental car.
No.
People flog on those things pretty badly.
Yeah.
So I go on, and finally I figure out that there's an off-site car rental facility with a known rental car agency. I'm not going to say their name here for protecting myself and the public. And so they're like 17 miles off-site.
That great of a car, huh?
Oh, yeah. So I says, all right, I'll just get an Uber and go over to pick up the car because I made the reservation. So I go online. I don't remember one of the online services that I used, and what's the cheapest crap box econo beater I can get, And they're like, all right, you're getting a Kia Sorento or similar. And I'm like, fine.
Can you fit in one of those?
I don't know. I'm not even sure what a Kia Sorento is. Isn't it a small SUV or something?
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Small.
So, so we go, and we get that, but then I end up calling the rental car place, and I says to the lady, I go, hey, do I have to drop this back off at the location, or can I just drop it off at Tampa Airport? Because according to Google, you don't open till 8 o'clock in the morning. And she's like, well, I can't give you the Kia and have you drop it back off at the airport. She goes, I can give you a different car, though, that I need to get to the airport. And she goes, it'll be $10 cheaper, too. And I says,
okay.
I said, fine. I said, I don't care what it's going to be. So my Kia Sorento or similar ended up being this. I'm going to pull up a picture and show you here,
Like
Jenna.
a Miata or something, was it? Oh, wow.
So a brand spanking new 2021 Ford Mustang convertible.
Dude.
I'm pretty sure it had the big V8 in it, the 5-liter Coyote or whatever they're using. It had drag race mode. It had the paddle shifters on the steering wheel.
Dude.
It had all sorts of just crazy goodies in it.
Nice.
And, I'm a car guy too, so I'm going to have some fun with this thing. So, of course, we put the top down and, we cruised down to Sarasota. I take my daughter. She had a blast. It's the first time she's done really long trips in a convertible.
Yeah.
Weather was perfect for it. We got the radio cranked. We're just having a good old time. But, yeah, the sport mode, the drag race mode, all of that was really cool. And then...
So that was unlocked on yours?
What's that?
Those modes were unlocked on yours?
Yeah, I shut off all of the traction control and everything. When I got in, I was
Awesome.
off. No traction control. I want sport mode for the steering, drag race mode for the transmission.
We tried messing with that. Keith, Ed had a rental car for a while. Well, his was getting some repairs done. And we took it on some test rides. Sure. Yeah, we'll go with that.
Okay.
And all of that was disabled.
Oh, really?
We couldn't do anything. It sucked.
No kidding. No, this thing, as far as I could tell, is completely unlocked because everything would change, and then
that's awesome.
it was definitely a sporty car, and it just made me realize what a piece of crap my daily driver is because everything on this brand new car is tight
and didn't leak. Doesn't make noise.
Barely touched the gas pedal. And it's like 0 to 90 and nothing. It was fun. It was a fun car. So, we have this thing and
all right, I'll be honest. How many burnouts did you do while you had it?
I actually didn't do any. I thought about it, but
why not? That's like the best part of a loaner car.
The best parts of having this thing, Mom's subdivision down there, and I think I mentioned it before. Well, you've been in there once. It has.
We took a 16-foot box truck in there once.
It has those speed curve things.
Yeah, I don't like those.
To keep you from going too fast, and it says 5 miles an hour or something like that.
Yeah.
Now, when I took a 42-foot trailer through there once, I just jumped those, and I sometimes jump them in the excursion when I'm down there too. I just hit them and I just wham, Well, with the Mustang, I went into those at about 45 miles an hour, slalom style, just back and forth. And that's what I was using those for.
Nice.
So I was being safe. I could see that there was no pedestrians out there. I wasn't doing it where kids were playing or anything like that.
You're drinking light beer, not heavy.
Exactly. just doing all that.
Of course, Wheeling does not recommend mixing alcohol with driving on the road.
So then this morning, on my way, I had a super, super, super early flight. So I'm coming back, and it's already 85 degrees outside. Ugh. Put the top down, crank the tunes. I'm going up I-75, and I've got it in all the sport modes and stuff. And I'm getting into a little bit of traffic, but not a lot. And so I'm kind of just zooming in and out of traffic a little bit. Probably pushing the limits of the law on a few things. Let's just say that.
Allegedly.
And all of a sudden, this big warning comes on the dashboard, and it's like, you may need to pull over for a rest break. You're possibly, because I think it was thinking that with my swerving in and out, it thought I was.
That is awesome.
But I'm just cutting in and out of traffic. Well, there was a bunch of early Sunday morning drivers. I mean, it's Florida. Yeah. So, 4 o'clock in the morning in Florida, that you got all the old people out that are getting ready to go to breakfast.
Nothing beats the smell of fresh sea air and Bengay.
What?
Bengay? That stuff you put on joints when they hurt?
Oh, yeah.
It's a joke about old people.
Oh,
Come
my
on.
God. All right. The Bengay
we have
thing.
nothing against the old folks.
All right. So yeah, that was quite fun. And speaking of putting the lotion on the skin or else it gets the hose again, Mom and I decided while we were down there that we were finally going to do this tattoo thing that we did. And I'm showing you the tattoo right now. You see it, and
that is awesome.
You wanted to know the meaning of this tattoo?
Yeah.
You want me to get a little bit too teary-eyed here? You need a napkin or anything?
Oh, yeah, I need a tissue if we're going to get into that. Come on, man. I'm a very emotional being. Come on, man.
So I don't know if I ever told you this story about my grandma, and if I did, you can stop me or whatever. You can muscle through it, but
you may have told me, but you haven't told them.
I don't think I have. And if I had, we've been doing this 2 years. A lot of stuff from my noggin comes out, but
I wonder at what point in time we're going to start repeating everything and not realize it.
I don't know. Probably at the point when our listeners start telling us about it. They're like, hey, you guys already covered that 3 years ago.
What would be really funny is if we just recap episode 1 Like, just straight up repeat, like, the whole thing and not tell anyone?
We could do that Evil Dead style, basically, like where they just
Yeah.
completely redid Evil Dead 1 for Evil Dead 2.
Yeah, that would be hilarious.
We just take the low budget version and make it slightly more budget, but not
Yes.
exactly like high budget.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, I like the idea.
We'll bring Andrew, the producer, out of retirement. And
Okay, yeah. No, I like the idea. So my grandmother, you met before, the one that was bedridden. You met her. She passed away about 10 years ago.
Maybe.
She had
Probably.
Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. It was my mom's mom. And
This is not a joke on that, but if I met her, I have forgotten.
okay, all right. Well, she lived at my parents' home. She was in not a comatose, but they called it like a vegetative state for about 9 years. But so in one of her last moments of somewhat clarity, that I remember. She had several after that for about a year, but just before she moved from her home up in Grayling, Michigan, where they lived on Lake Margrethe up there. And I was sitting up there, and we were at the dining room table. It was just Grandma and me. I don't think there was anybody else there, but it was a cold, rainy, nasty day. And it was just, we were looking out the window and over the lake, and you could barely see across the lake because it was nasty out. And Grandma's just watching out over the lake, and it's a beautiful sight, but it's not, it's just a day, Michigan bad weather spring day, and she just spurts out, isn't that the most beautiful sailboat you've ever seen? And I look out the window and I'm like, what? I don't see a sailboat. And she's like, yeah, the sailboat out there on the water. And I'm like, what sailboat, Grandma? And she starts describing it to me. And she's like, oh, it's got the sails open in the wind, and it's just the sun, the way it's hitting the boat, and it's just beautiful. And she's telling me all about this beautiful sight she's seeing. Obviously, it was one of two things. Either her mind was so fried at that point that she was, delirious and not seeing reality, or she was seeing into another dimension / universe.
Could it have been a reflection of something on another wall?
No.
Okay.
She was definitely having a vision that I was not part of.
Okay.
But the thing is my grandmother, on that side, my entire life, I don't remember ever saying a nasty word. I've seen her like frustrated a few times, but I never saw her upset, never yell, never cuss, never swear. She was one of the kindest people I've ever known. And when her mind started to slip, she, like many Alzheimer's patients, unfortunately, as their mind starts to slip, they get so frustrated internally that they get nasty with people, and they get mean, and and it doesn't always happen that way. But with her, her mind went to beautiful places, and it was always, beautiful things. And she'd talk about the children, talk about the beautiful sight she was seeing and things like that. So that always stuck with me, that her mind had said,
see the beauty in the darkness.
See the beauty in that. And so I had wanted to do something with a sailboat for a tattoo for a long time. And, about a month ago, maybe 3-4 weeks ago, I'm driving to work, and all of a sudden, and I'm just listening to the radio. I'm not paying any attention. I'm not thinking about tattoos. I'm not thinking about sailboats, anything. All of a sudden, it hit me like a truck, this just thought in my head that said, get the sailboat tattoo on your wrist. And I go, well, where did that come from? And you think you can't think it came from upstairs?
Well, yeah, the proverbial upstairs.
Oh, okay.
Assuming she went there. I mean,
I would assume if there is one, I don't know. And so
a higher power, we'll call it that.
So I got a hold of, I thought you were pointing at the second or third floor.
Maybe.
But
I don't know if she was ever in this house.
No, she wasn't. As far as I know. So I got a hold of my mom, and I said, hey, do me a favor. I says, and I told her the story. I told her before. I actually told it at my grandmother's wake, that story of the sailboat thing. And I says, do me a favor. I want you to find a sailboat that would make a good tattoo. And I want you to find one that you think your mom would have thought was beautiful, or an image that your mom would have thought was beautiful. And so she went and she started Googling things and looking up pictures, and she eventually found this image of, really there's not a lot of detail to the sailboat. It's a small sailboat, but as you see in the tattoo, it's kind of swirled around in almost like I don't know if it's like a yin yang kind of type of thing, but then you got the moon or the star up in the top. And she said, I really like this, and I like how dreamlike it is. And with Mom's mind being in a dreamlike type of stance, she goes, I really like this. And I said, okay. I said, well, I'm going to get that one then. And she goes, well, I'm going to get that one with you too.
Nice.
And I says, are you sure? And she says, oh yeah. She says, I got a tattoo with your brother and with Stephanie. She goes, I never got one with you. So she had a tattoo artist that had done her last one that she really liked down there in Florida. And so I called up and, we texted back and forth and some pictures and images and stuff, and we made an appointment.
Cool.
Mom got the same tattoo, but with a ton of color in it. I'm more of a black and gray guy, but I did get color for the first time around the star. I got some purple. And the reason I did that is purple is the color that represents Alzheimer's awareness. So I told him, I said, somehow I want you to integrate just a touch of purple. I said, I don't want the whole thing to be purple. I said, I just want just a little bit of purple in there for that. So, and to me, this tattoo, because being on my wrist here, always is going to represent, to try to look for the kindness in life and to be kind and to be, so it's so that's why I want to write on the wrist. I didn't want it hidden on a shoulder or back. Yeah. It's my first visual one. I've got other tattoos, but it's the first one that is always out as long as I'm wearing a t-shirt or something. And,
I got some I'll mention in a bit, but
and just one last thing with it, the placement. I was undecided even on the flight whether I was going to do it on the right or the left wrist, and I'd said to my daughter Abby, I says, yeah, I think I'm going to get my right wrist because I've got my medical alert bracelet for my heart condition on the left, and I said, so I think I might just get it over here, and not that I can't change the bracelet, which as you can see I did. Yeah. And she says, well, you should get it on your left, and I says, why is that? And she goes, well, it's closer to your heart. I said, all right, at that point it's going on my left wrist. So the whole thing was just one of those, the stars aligned on it, and the rest of the trip, we went out to dinner. We had a great time at the tattoo parlor. Cool place. I'm going to do a shout out to Liberty Tattoo down there in Sarasota, Florida. Drew there did both of our tattoos. Nice. Super cool dude, very talented artist. And the tattoo parlor, very tasteful inside, a lot of cool artwork and stuff. But then the tattoo artists are into bikes, and so they had all their motorcycles parked inside the tattoo shop. That's
awesome.
So you're walking up and down there's like some rat bikes and some really cool bikes, and
nice.
Neat place to go. Very fair prices too. I thought being in a tourist area that they were going to be higher, like when Stephanie got the one in LA, but no, price is comparable to what we have here in Michigan. Nice. So I was really pleased with the place.
I almost made a horrible decision about a project motorcycle a few weeks ago.
That would not have been a horrible decision. It would have been a great decision.
It was in a flooded basement in Detroit.
What kind of motorcycle?
Harley Sportster.
How much?
I think it was $1,000. Oh, it was rough.
I want to build a dirtster. All I need is a frame and a motor and a trans, basically.
You could see they had one of the covers off the side, and it was trashed. It would have been a lot of work to restore this thing. I'm
not looking to restore it. I'm looking to get it running and put some knobby tires on it.
I don't know if the engine would have run. It would have needed a total, full, complete rebuild.
Well, if it didn't sell, send me a link or something.
It did.
Oh, it sold?
Yeah, I was messaging the guy back and forth a little bit, and he's like, well, this one's, pending, but I've got another one that was even worse condition. One day.
Sportster's too small for you anyways. You got to start out on smaller bikes, but you're a big guy to ride a Sportster. Yeah, if you're going to ride a small bike.
I want an old classic. I would love a project because I like the idea of just like a rat bike kind of thing, something that I can, mismatch parts or whatever. I don't care. I just like the idea of an old bike. I don't like a lot of the new ones with all the plastic crap.
That's where I'm at. And a couple of the bikes they had there were just a little bit of metal and like the chain drive's completely open, just really cool bikes.
Yeah. Something that's, real sketchy by today's safety standards.
You said you were going to show me something? Or?
So it's just a quote. A friend of mine got this in a fortune cookie, and she put on Facebook, was looking for some explanations. I put my interpretation. I want to get yours.
All right. Is this something she's going to get as a tattoo?
No. This straight up came as a fortune cookie in their dinner after Chinese.
I can't read it from there.
I know. I'm going to read it.
Oh, okay.
So it says, hardly anyone knows how much is gained by ignoring the future. So my take on that is kind of live in the moment. Don't stress and worry about the future.
Well, absolutely, because the future's not written.
Yeah,
And
exactly. Live, enjoy what you have. Kind of deal with it until you get there.
unless you subscribe to the idea of a cyclical universe, and we've all done this at one point or another, and and the fate's written in the stars, or you believe in the whole God thing, and God says every single moment that you're going to, that he's got a pre-planned. He knows that tomorrow you're gonna, pull out a piece of gum and chew it, or he knew that last Sunday after podcasting, I was going to trip in my own living room after drinking too much moonshine that you gave me and break my toe. Thank you so much.
I saw that post. You never answered when I said what happened.
When we were you were there when it happened. We were upstairs. We were up there at the counter. We had come back from Dan's, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But we had come back from Dan's. And we were getting into some snacks and stuff, and I walked over.
Thank you again to Stephanie for the pistachios; those were amazing.
Oh, okay, yeah. I've got that strip that goes the transition strip between the kitchen and it sometimes catches on my socks and stuff. And it didn't rip a sock or anything, but I just managed to catch the transition strip.
Yeah.
And I kind of stumbled and I went toe forward and I felt a pop in my toe. But it felt like a knuckle cracking, which you can crack your toe knuckles. And I was like, oh, okay, this is nothing, But mind you, I was hopped up on a half a bottle of moonshine and 7 Miller Lights and some rum. And
in all fairness, only half the moonshine was my responsibility.
Yeah. And so the next morning, or actually the middle of the night, I wake up and my toe is just throbbing. And I knew right away. And the next morning, it was black as could be. And by the next day, it had the blackness had gone down into the foot, and that toe looked like it had beat up the 2 toes next to it, had turned black as well too. So
good Lord.
Now it looks a lot better, but it's still sore, and I'm walking with a limp still. But yeah, I managed to break my own toe. I've broken toes before, and I know what a broken toe feels like, and they can't do anything for them. But
so does this mean no more moonshine for Keith?
No, but
okay,
I've got 10 toes, and they can all
one down, 9 to go.
The first time I think it was the first time I broke a toe, I was in the Atlantic Ocean, drunk on
I've heard this one
on those weird coconut drinks, and it's a whole other story every day. But yeah, I broke one down there too. So maybe drinking and breaking toes is a thing for me. So I don't know, but
steel toe boots from now on.
Yeah,
that might break all of them.
Yeah, who knows?
Maybe not.
Who knows? So
I'll back this up. Speaking of Dan's, we had promised in our after show last week an interview with Dan on his project. As they've probably gathered by now, we kind of had a few too many beverages of refreshment over there to do so.
Yeah, and I could tell Dan wasn't super keen on the idea of he would probably sit in studio and talk to us, but the idea of recording in the shop and stuff, and his mind was wrapped around some difficulties of the project at the time.
I totally understand that, but that was an incredible job. The lift it was a Terraflex lift, I think he said. Well,
so here's the deal, and that's one of the things I wanted to talk to and mention. And by all means, this isn't a criticism of Dan, but it's something that I've seen multiple times when people put together, especially with newer four-linked vehicles, such as basically your new solid axle trucks, like your Super Duties and your Dodges, and then your Jeeps, your Jeep Wranglers. He did use a Terraflex lift, but he mixed and matched some components, some shocks, and some I believe some track bars and stuff like that from other lifts, or from other components. And as you saw, he was getting into some binding situations and some situations where things weren't lined up quite perfectly, and he was modifying. He had some lean to the right. He was trying to figure out, and we still don't have exactly what was going on.
Yeah.
Now we're only talking very, very minor dialing issues that were not. Most people would probably not even notice them, but Dan's a perfectionist with this stuff.
I understand.
And
I did the same thing on mine, mixing different brands of parts, and
it doesn't work with the lift kits all the time.
Not always. No, I ran into a few issues with mine.
Exactly, and that's something
I didn't care.
Well, and sometimes it works, but a lot of times when you start mixing that with your bolt-on stuff, it's.
Mine was so custom fabbed at that point, it didn't matter. His is all bolt-on. New, essentially.
Exactly. And what Dan's working with there, I think we mentioned it before, he has a, 12 or 13, maybe it's a little newer than that, but a Rubicon Rock Track.
Yeah.
And it's 4-door Rubicon Unlimited. He ended up going to 35s on it, doing about what did he say? It was about 4-inch lift?
2.5, I thought.
Oh, I thought it was more than that.
It was a mild lift.
He didn't have the tires on yet, so it looked
Yeah.
pretty high.
Yeah, well, it was on a hoist.
Yeah, it was on a hoist as well. He did the, I think it's a Terraflex kit to put the
It was the
third,
control arms.
well, also the third row
Yeah.
passenger, so you can have the
yeah,
two-door
yeah.
JK rear seat in it. So now it's a seven-passenger Wrangler.
That's cool. I didn't know you could do that on those. That's pretty sweet.
I did that on my old orange JK, and
Nice.
it's a really nice setup. My only complaint about it is that it, if you're running the factory hardtop, you can't run the headrests. So I would say that third row seat option really needs to be left for small children where their heads are not up over the back of the seat.
Or really short people.
Or really short people, exactly. But it was a sweet little put together there.
Oh, yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
We fought with that soft top for probably, an hour between three of us trying to figure out how to attach that thing.
Man, brand new soft
Good
top,
Lord.
factory soft top, had never been installed. It was a new
New
old,
in the box since 2013.
yeah, new old stock.
Never taken out the box.
Very, very stiff.
And it was cold,
Yeah, it was not a
which
hot.
was our first mistake.
It was not a hot day, hot summer day.
No.
Heated shop, but not. He didn't have the heat on, and I don't
Yeah.
think you can get cranked high enough in there to actually make a difference with the top.
Not long enough, probably.
No, probably not.
Yeah.
And it was just we wrestled with it. We ended up
Oh
having to
my
unbolt
God.
the
Half unbolt.
a bunch of pieces,
Front latches there.
front latches, and it was a neat setup.
Yeah,
though.
we got it, and man, did that look sharp when it was done.
Very good looking
That's-
Jeep. I've always liked the bumpers and the hood on those.
I love them with the fitted soft top, so the ones that kind of fit to the rails. I've always loved the look of that. It just looks like a Hummer to me that way, or a Humvee rather.
Oh yeah,
And I love that look in it.
but that one wasn't fitted to the roll bars. That
No,
one,
but it had that rear angle to it though.
yeah. Well, it was factory, wasn't
Yeah.
it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a factory one. I liked it. It was,
Yeah. Oh, it was sharp.
and
With the lift and those beefy shocks, that front track bar, holy hell, that was nuts.
I wish I remembered the name of the company. He said he got that locally. It was made here in Michigan.
Yeah,
And
I know he's looking at, it was an adjustable front track bar. He's going to match the rear to that. That is a beefy bar. Oh my God.
yeah, I don't think he's gonna be bending that off road anytime soon.
No, if he's bending that thing's totaled.
He did the truss kits on the axles, and they're very, very nice looking pieces.
They were some nice kits. Yeah, I've looked at a few different trusses for stuff I've done before, and they were just too expensive for me at the time and all that. I don't remember the prices he paid. No, I think it was like $300 for both kits shipped.
Not bad at all.
Not at all.
He's a heck of a welder, so
Yes.
everything looked really.
It looked factory. I mean, he did
very
a
quality
fantastic
install.
job with it for sure.
Had those dimpled die holes on them, and
Yeah.
although I did find out on UA because we had a similar kit, different brand, similar kit on the JK we ran, that those openings in there, they trap a lot of mud.
I believe it. Yeah,
That's,
that'd be my biggest concern with it.
So if you're going to do a lot of mud wheeling, I don't know if you want to have, if that's an option, or
Yeah.
if they just have them, you got to blow it out with some.
The ones
power
I was
washer.
looking at were a little more solid. I know that was a little bit more formed, like flatter or like tube steel.
Yeah.
The ones I was looking at were all plate.
Okay.
A lot more welding, but I feel personally it'd be a lot stronger, a lot easier to clean and keep clean. So
Yeah.
that's, if I ever do that, I've had a thought lately. Yeah, what the hey, I'll share it. So I'm going through everything I am to get the Cherokee back up and running and get it on the road.
Okay.
Basically, the Pegasus, the Wrangler is going to come off the road for a little bit. Depending how fast I get this done, I've always tossed up the idea of making it an off-road only rig. So doing more lift and like 1-ton axle swap.
Okay.
So I've kind of been giving a little more thoughts to doing that.
On the
Wrangler.
The Wrangler, yeah.
Yeah, making it an off-road only rig.
I support this.
I mean, the body's shot. I'll call it half-ass repair that and not have to worry about a lot of the metal work and doing a tub
Sure.
swap and everything. So the thought's there. I don't think I'll do it. Not yet, at least. A lot of it just depends on, well, a lot of things. But I think that might be kind of cool.
Absolutely, I think you should. And then the Cherokee can be your tow rig.
Yeah. Oh, it would do well with the bill.
I don't think your Cherokee's going to tow a big heavy. No, it's too short. I tried towing with mine.
It would not be ideal.
No, you'd want to tow with a truck or something.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to have the Cybertruck, remember.
Oh, so we go. I hope you do. I'm waiting.
And then if the battery dies, I can just swap them out and keep going.
There you go. I know we have not played on numbers for a long time, but this is episode 87.
This is indeed.
And you know what 87 is, right?
The year before I was born.
The year before you were born. Yeah. Oh, so is next year, or is next episode Johnny Orange's birthday episode?
It's a little early for that.
Oh, okay. 1987 was actually a big turning point in Jeep history.
I feel I should know this. I know we've talked about it.
Well, it's for several reasons, actually. Huh. And maybe you can talk to the technical stuff in a minute here, but 87 was when Chrysler took over AMC.
Okay.
So all your Jeep brand. I
vaguely remember that from my notes.
So your Jeep brand in 87 went over to Chrysler, and now so you ended up the AMC was done in 87.
Yeah.
And immediately Chrysler started to institute some changes into the platform and to change things around. But 87 was the introduction of the YJ Wrangler.
Okay.
So that's a big Jeep history point there. Square
One of the
headlights. Unpopular and popular. I mean, the YJ was popular in some ways because it was starting to get a little more refined.
Yeah, but the square headlights people did not like.
They did not.
Ugh.
But 87 was also the first year in the XJ only for Renix fuel injection.
Oh.
86.
I forgot about it. I thought it was 86 for some reason.
86 is when you could get the
all those
AMC
weird V6 things.
Well, no, yes,
a few of those weird options.
You get the 2.8 V6 and all that, but the in 86 they had put on the Cherokee on the 4-cylinder only. You could get AMC's, it was something like their engine management control system, fuel injection or something, that was discontinued almost immediately by Chrysler. They ran it for like a year or two on the 4-cylinders only. But in 87, on the 4-liter, which was introduced, that's another thing, introduction of the 4-liter.
Yeah.
For 87, XJ only, not the YJ. They used the XJ as the test platform for that.
Nice.
You got the 4-liter fuel injected straight 6 with the Renix. Now, I don't have much experience with the Renix. I know you've messed with it a little bit.
Just a little bit as far as what I need to do to make everything work on my build.
I've heard pros and cons. I've heard that they have wiring harness issues and stuff. But
a little bit. I know one of the common write-ups, there's a website, and I can't remember the name of it, but it's called like the Renix Bible or something to that effect.
Okay.
It's a whole website dedicated to what to do to make the Renix engines better or run more efficiently. One of the biggest modifications, they call it the C106 Eliminator. So if you have about a day and a half, a mile of shrink tubing and a soldering iron,
you get rid of the Jeep
main
Commander
body connector. No. Commando. And that was a C101 and 104, not 106.
Oh, gotcha. So you get rid of the main body connector.
Yeah, it was some issue in the connector. There's something like 80 pins or something like that in it.
Uh-huh.
And it was after that, I think it was 89 or 90, they eliminated the connector, and that solved a lot of problems.
Okay.
I know there's some grounding points. I've skimmed over it, for the simple stuff.
Yeah.
Grounding points to clean up that just made issues with the fuel pump, which is literally a little piece of sandpaper, reinstall the screw.
Okay.
Real simple stuff.
Well, that's something else. I've heard it was a fairly simple fuel injection system as well, even though it was still a multi-port fuel injection.
Yeah, it's still got the 6 injectors on it like the late model 4.0s do. It's got a funky throttle body, 3 bolts instead of 4. I've upgraded, to the late model intake manifold and everything, so I'm adapting everything to use that stuff.
Well, I know in 87 that was pretty state-of-the-art stuff because most of your fuel injection at that point, And most manufacturers by 87 were switching over or had switched over to fuel injection, but most of them were throttle body fuel injection.
Yeah.
So, here they were playing at the edge of technology. AMC had started to design it in, I believe it was with some partnership with Renault still out of France. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it was it was really state-of-the-art stuff. And 87 was a big turning point for Jeep.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. There's a lot of additional adjustments on this stuff. Like the actual throttle position sensor, there's adjustments on that the late model stuff didn't have.
Okay.
So the late model, the computers took over a lot more of that calculations. These are relatively simple.
Yeah, I've heard they're kind of a dialable fuel injection system.
Yeah, which is awesome, and I've got to learn how to do a lot of that stuff still.
I know there's a number of guys out there, and I would love it if any of you are listeners and big fans of the Renix system and you want to put some pointers out on 4x4 Talk on Facebook, on the group, on the 4x Talk Facebook group, because other people would like to learn it. But I know that a number of the Jeep guys, and it's starting to wane off now, but 10, 15 years ago when XJs were still plenty to be had that weren't rust buckets in the $500 to $1,000 range.
Yeah.
I knew a number of guys where they were specifically looking for Renix 4.0 XJs, and then your flavor of automatic or manual transmission. But they wanted that couple year period right there because they said that they could tune it and they could play with it more than some of the newer stuff. And they didn't want the old, of course, the 2.8 V6s or the 4-cylinders.
One of the other nice things about them, so this goes if you're an engine builder or if you want to build a stroker engine. So the original 4.0 blocks, the Renix series blocks, they had a lot thicker cylinder walls and a higher nickel content in the actual casting alloys.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So you can actually bore those over and get more power out of those old blocks than you can out of the newer 4.0 blocks.
And what you're talking about is when they put the 258 straight 6 crank in the 4.0 and then they make the 4.7 stroker.
Yeah, that one, what is that? It makes it like a 4.2 or a 4.5 just by swapping the 4, I think it's the 4.2 crank, and then I never remember which way it goes. It's either pistons from the 4.0, the rods from the 4.2, or the other way around. And that like bolts in. You need a little spacer for the harmonic balancer pulley in the front.
You would need the rods and the crank from, I can tell you that. You would need the rods and the crank from the 258, which is the 4.2.
Yeah.
Because then the piston size is different for the 4.0, I believe.
It's something to deal with the length of the stroke.
Yeah, that's what you're doing. The rod and the crank is what would change the stroke. But then you need to have the proper size piston for the block. So if you're using...
The piston should be the same size.
No, I believe the 4.0 has got a bigger
remember.
bore. I think.
That could be it then.
I could be wrong. I've never done a Jeep stroker
I've
motor.
only looked into it a couple times because I had access to a 4.2 that I was going to take the parts from to do this at one point.
Yeah.
And then it sold, so I stopped researching it. But that's whatever that is. You can get. I think it's a lot of power out of that just bolting it in.
Yeah.
And then if you bore everything up, you start doing forced air induction or any of that kind of stuff, you can crank some insane power out of these.
Out of country, they actually made stroker versions of that engine, but the U.S. didn't see them, and that's why people knew that we could start doing this and stuff. And
there was I think I shared it on 4x4 Talk a while back. There was a video I found of these guys. They got like almost 1,000 horsepower out of a 4.0.
Wow.
Now, what they did to get that was insanity.
Well, I imagine.
It was cool.
There's
power to be had in these things.
The largest I've ever seen when bored and stroked out to was 5 liter, and I've heard rumors of someone doing it all the way up to 5.2. But
Edelbrock makes a 5.0 head to flow enough, fuel and air mix and all that in it.
Yeah, I know that you can do all the way up to 5 liter now with it. That's
it's insane.
And that's expensive stuff. That Edelbrock head is not cheap.
No, it is not.
But the weight savings on it, I think, is like 120 pounds or something like that. It's a big weight savings.
I looked into set of like the roller rockers, and for what I have now, it wouldn't do me any good.
No, I mean, at that point, unless you're just an absolute Jeep faithful, you might be better going to an LS motor or something.
I'm not ruling out I won't do it at some point just because I can.
Yeah.
But, if Edelbrock wants to sponsor,
sure.
let's go 4.0 build, I would gladly do it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
But no, there's a lot of power to be had from a lot of tuning and tweakability. The only thing I haven't figured out how it's supposed to work is there's only one oxygen sensor. And I know the whole idea with oxygen sensors, it measures, before cat and after cat measurement.
Well, the early systems, I didn't.
No, and that's what like I said, I'm still learning a lot about some of this stuff. So I haven't figured that one out.
Yeah, a lot of the early fuel injection systems were a single O2 sensor.
And if I'm not
that.
mistaken, I know they really need to have that in there. So I am putting it back in, which is going to be interesting how it's going to work with that in. Because I'm running the late model cylinder head, an intake manifold, an exhaust manifold, so that location is going to be in a different spot. So it's going to be interesting to see what I'm going to have to do to make it work.
I'm surprised that you haven't determined that you're going to build an all aluminum 4.0 straight six.
Yeah, I don't have that kind of money.
Because you could use an early AMC aluminum block, because they actually had the 258 aluminum block when they were in the Wranglers. And it's the same engine architecture, but I did look into it quite a bit when I wrote the article for the Dispatcher.
Yeah.
The cylinder bolt heads are off by like 3/4 of an inch. So you would literally have to probably start with, and weirdly enough, those early couple-year only aluminum block engines had a cast iron head on them. So what you would need to do is you'd have to have the aluminum block and then either weld and machine the block or the Edelbrock head to then accept the pattern of the other one. It's theoretically doable, but it would be quite a bit of work,
Yeah.
It'd be kind of cool, though, and it'd be lightweight, all aluminum. It's one of those things like, why would you do it? But, I mean...
Again, if anyone would like to sponsor the build, we'll do it.
And then there's the challenge of the aluminum blocks did have a different bell housing bolt pattern on the back of them.
Well, so we can talk to Chad on that one.
There's some machining or custom adapters from Quick Draw or something.
We'll have him make one.
One off. I mean, at that point with the stuff he's making these days, maybe he could just start making aluminum 4-liter blocks. Not that there's a big market for that, but maybe he could. I mean...
So, Chad, if you want to make an aluminum 4.0 block based off an original Renix design so we can bore out the cylinders more, let's build us a badass wheeling...
Well, you wouldn't bore it out. Aluminum blocks would be sleeved with steel cylinders.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, so just make it big.
Oh.
And then if you want to even really play with it, stagger the cylinders... like they do on the race engines and then some of the newer stuff.
With that.
So instead of the cylinders all being in line, they stagger them by a couple of degrees so they can actually get because you got two, you take like, here, give me your water bottle over there. So you got two cylinders that are next to each other and you got that thin little gap between them because your pistons, you need to have that material.
Yeah.
What they will do on a lot of race engines and stuff like that is they stagger them like this.
Oh.
And so you can get so many hundreds of thousands over for the size of the piston. So if you made a 4-liter block and you offset you offset it like 1/8 of an inch or something like that, you might be able to go like 200 thousandths over or something on your piston size. But now you're talking custom pistons unless you find something.
Custom pistons, probably custom crank.
Well, no, the crank and everything would still be the same, but you would have to find a piston either that's a stock application that would fit it, or you'd have to go to like Molly or Egg Machine or something like that to have a custom. And believe it or not, Egg Machine and Molly will do custom pistons pretty reasonably priced. So you just got to give them all the specs.
We need like a benefactor for this show so we can just start building this crap.
Oh, I know. I tell you what. But I mean, it's cool bench racing idea in your mind. I mean, it would be really fun to build the world's first all aluminum, and then at that point maybe make it like a 5.5, 5.6, 5.8 liter Jeep straight six, architecture.
That would be sweet. Show up to a drag race in like a CJ2 or something.
Yeah. I tell you what.
Little Willies.
Yeah, I mean.
That would be awesome.
Why not? But yeah, so that, like I said, 87 was just kind of a big year there.
Yeah.
And they did a lot of interesting stuff. And switched over, and we've talked about a lot of the history of that before, so we don't need to get deep into the history. If people are interested, go back into our old episodes. I can't tell you off the top of my head which ones were our straight six history episodes and
that one I don't
AMC
remember.
And stuff like that.
I know the XJ was episode 10. It's the only one I know.
Okay, well that's
still
popular.
One of our most popular episodes.
Yeah, so that's a popular episode. People want to go back and do that. But John, you got anything else you want to talk about on this episode?
No, I mean, I think we covered everything we set out to, at least.
Yeah, maybe even a little bit more, but...
that's all right.
once again, we always like talking about that Jeep history stuff. And if anyone's interested, not just Jeep, but all off-road vehicles, if anybody's interested in talking to us more or even meeting at least one of the cast members in person here. I love it. I just used the word cast member. One of our reviews, a guy actually called us cast members, and all of a sudden, so it's stuck in my head. But
one of the hosts,
one of the co-hosts. I do work at the Museum of Off-Road Adventure. We are going to be opening back up, and I believe, I don't want to officially say on the podcast right now, but because we are still technically by appointment only, but I believe our regular hours are going to be starting on Friday evenings again.
Cool.
And probably this Friday. I'm gonna see how things go, and if anyone's interested in checking out the Museum of Off-Road Adventure in Clay Township, Michigan in person, call 877-FWD-MORA, M-O-R-A. Great place to learn about off-road vehicle history. I'm there. I can talk your ear off about these. I'd love to hear about your builds, whatever you're doing, your restorations, or just old 4x4s and Jeeps or whatever that Grandpa had 40 years ago.
Yeah, if you want to share some of those details, make sure to check out our Facebook group, 4x4 Talk. 4x4 Talk in your search bar. A couple quick questions gets you on the page. Post some of those pictures. Talk about, what you're building, what it means to you, if there's a meaning, or you just wanted to do it because it's cool. Share some of that and get input from other people, from us, interact with us and everybody else. So, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Make sure to check out our Patreon, too. Patreon.com/wheelinradio. Access as low as $2 a month. You'll get to hear a lot of bonus content that we talk about all the time. Some cool special or access-only stuff. We do have a lot of public stuff available right now for free. So check that out if you like it. Sign on up for the month-to-month and go from there.
Sounds good, John. What do you say you want to do now?
Well, I'm going to add one last thing here. So on our recording session here, today is my dad's birthday. If I'm not mistaken, I think he's 66 today.
Well,
so
happy birthday, Johnny Orange Sr.
I know you don't listen to the show. We'll teach you how to use this app on your phone at some point.
He doesn't want to hear your voice more than he already does?
Can you blame him?
Well, all right.
So with that, we'll say thanks for listening and have a good one, everybody.